You're listening to Wild Culture, a podcast discussing consumer culture and the powerful influence of business strategy. There's a mania that comes around once a year, and it's called Christmas. Christmas is the time of year where all we want to do is to get excited about the tree and the food and the presents and putting our feet up on holidays. We've worked hard all year trying to get on the nice list, and what we don't want to do is find ourselves in a long queue come the 22nd, 23rd or 24th of December, clamoring over other customers to get the last of a particular toy on the shelf. There is a week until Christmas, and this means Christmas mania is guaranteed to bring up some common business fails. So in today's episode of Wild Culture, we're talking about all of these fails and how to fix them. If you're listening in for the first time, I'm Tanika. I'm a strategic planner, marketer, researcher, and author. Now, for anyone working at this time of year, particularly if you're in retail, logistics, or customer service, the thing you've likely observed is that the entire Christmas period is not just a retail season. It's a stress test against the core strategy and scale of the entire organization. What we see at this time of year is that as the customer volume accelerates, the complexity of the operation from the supply chain to the storefront starts to show cracks. The policies, procedures, the system of work that works so well at a small scale or when things were cruising throughout the year, they buckle. The pressure from that can break customer and employee trust, and that can lead to lower profits come January, which means this is the time of year where management usually fails and where the battleground for long-term business longevity is lost. Now, I'm a strategic planner, so most of my work is concerned with thinking ahead and studying what's going to land well with consumers so that we don't have anything boil up and chip away at the brand experience or the bottom line, which means what we need to talk about here is how we can engineer longevity by anticipating and fixing failure points, what we call pain points, before they collapse under the weight of Christmas. Now, for most businesses, the weeks leading up to Christmas Day should be the highest earning of the year. So if you get those weeks right, and for some businesses, this will also apply to the weeks after Christmas, from Boxing Day through to when either back to school or Valentine's Day come round. So we might be looking at, say, 6 to 8 weeks where our strategic setup and delivery needs to be built for volume and variation. That variation we'll get into shortly because that can take people by surprise this time of year. I've identified 3 common fail areas that retailers and businesses in the Christmas supply chain need to get a handle on to survive the season and keep their brand intact. Let's call these the 3 customer experience fails because we want to look at these from the customer perspective. Otherwise, if we go into the business angle, we'll throw up all the reasons why we can't fix these because that's what tends to happen. Now, I'll say it again before we go through each of these 3 things. Christmas is a stress test against the scale of an organization. Some leaders and managers are very good at micro scale and startup level. They're even good at the medium scale end of the spectrum. The business thinking needs to shift to a much bigger level to take the business to the next level and to leave these failures behind. You want to not have these present if you can help it. So let's go through each of these 3 things. The first failure point is the post-purchase blackout. Think about the classic Chrissy present transaction. You find the perfect gift. The store processes the payment quickly and you walk out the door. The immediate transaction is fast, efficient, and satisfactory. But the moment you leave the store, the entire follow-up experience goes dark. So the transaction is fast, but the follow-up is fragmented or the follow-through is MIA. That's missing in action. This happens because the organization is optimized for the speed of the sale, not the longevity of the relationship. So our processes in terms of processing a sale, everybody knows the sale is the important point. We know that it's very easy to get hold of our checkouting systems, our FPOS, our payment gateways. They're easy, they're established, quick to set up. Management celebrates the transaction, and we love looking over our sales figures, while the system designed to manage the customer after the sale is under-resourced or ignored. So we lose touch of thinking that that's an important phase. The business has this approach because it hasn't considered the last stage of the customer journey map, which is loyalty. Now, if you've not heard of the term customer journey map before, this is a design process where we consider each step in the customer journey from start to finish, and we map them out. We design them carefully so that we're considering what the customer needs, what's going to be pleasant and frustration-free for them throughout that process. Now, the worst part of the post-purchase blackout is often the returns, exchange policies, and loyalty programs. These should be the easiest, most streamlined paths in your entire business, yet during the holidays, they become bottlenecks. Why? Because the store staff is constantly fighting the fire of new sales, and no one is tasked with pushing the button for a seamless post-sale experience. Now, if you're a physical premise with a long queue of new customers already annoyed by the wait, where do you send the unhappy customer who just wants to return a faulty item or something that doesn't fit? Or where do you sign up your customer to a newsletter that lets them know when new things are arriving, or a loyalty program that gives them a discount? This turns a quick, successful Christmas sale into a permanent loss of trust. Remember, if a customer has a good experience during a return, they are significantly more likely to return for another purchase later on. The post-purchase experience is the moment to reinforce the brand, not destroy it. And remember, your other customers are watching. Our second failure point is the omnichannel illusion, and it's perhaps the most poisonous to your brand promise. Now, retailers spend millions promising a seamless digital experience. This is the idea that their online store, their app, and their physical location are all one synchronized organism. They promise click and collect, inventory transparency, and delivery tracking. But this promise is shattered by the reality of the physical store. This is the poison pill. This is how it unfolds. The customer orders online. The payment is confirmed. The stock was in store online, and they drive to the store for click and collect only to find a line wrapping around the block, or worse, the item they paid for is nowhere to be found. Or they receive a week later a notification that says, whoops, sorry, we're out of stock. Here's your refund. Why does that happen? Because the digital promise is often made far, far away from the physical reality. The online inventory is a fantasy, and the actual product is delivered on trucks that get stuck in Christmas traffic, just like the rest of us, or it's been purchased by an in-store customer minutes ago, so you were pipped at the post. This disconnect can feel like a genuine betrayal to the customer. So as a customer, you paid online, but a week later, the company emails promising to notify you when the item is back in stock. Or as a customer, you queued for 20 minutes for a fast service, only to be told that the system is slow and they have to locate the order manually, because in-store picking and packing happens by people that have multiple orders that they're concurrently working on. This is where the pressure of accelerated volume exposes the lack of true system integration. The customer experience disconnect between the digital interface and the physical inventory is not a glitch. It is brand damage in action. If your digital strategy can't handle the pressure of Christmas volume, then you don't have an omnichannel strategy. You have an omnichannel illusion. Our final, third, and most critical failure point is the human firewall. Oh gosh, overworked, under-resourced employees are the final customer touch point. It should be the most pleasant experience for a customer is interacting with a human being who gets them, who can handle any level of variation, any level of complexity in their request or their need for customer service. When I say firewall, I mean that the employee is the last line of defense between the customer's frustration and your organization's failure. The only difference here between an actual electronic firewall that we might be familiar with and an employee as a firewall is that employees burn out. Their burnout becomes the customer's experience. This stress is amplified during the holidays by two key factors. The first is a lack of resource investment. So management is laser focused on moving product. And as I said, they're laser focused on processing and completing the sale. They're not focused on reinforcing the employee experience. So the staff are running on fumes, and every minor system error is compounded by their lack of energy. They might be down in colleagues because of illness, of holidays, a range of different reasons. There's just not enough people to move into operations. Then the other key factor is the casual staff mix. So you've thrown into the mix of employees casual staff who have had their induction fast-tracked. They know the basics of the sale, but they have no deep organizational knowledge to navigate the complex issues from the post-purchase blackout or the Omnichannel Illusion. So how do they get around that? Well, they've got to work it out fast on their feet, and hopefully with the support of their colleagues, hoping that they have time to explain how to handle these issues. This is not a simple HR issue. It is a strategic customer experience issue. You must strategically invest in the employee experience to safeguard your customer experience, because the experience your employee has inside your organization is directly transferred to the customer outside of the organization. And there is a great saying about this. It is that happy employees make happy customers. So when an employee feels supported, trained, and valued, they act as a shock absorber for the system's inevitable faults, because they're coming. They come even when you're in cruise mode. So at scale, when you have everybody vying for their Christmas goodies so they can get home and enjoy the food and their time with family, the scale of them's huge. When employees are burnt out, they become an accelerant for the customer's frustration. So it needs to be invested in. It needs to be taken seriously. Look after your people. This Christmas season, test the integrity of your organization's culture, training, and employee loyalty. The Christmas season is not just a volume challenge. It is a strategic pinpoint of managerial excellence. It is a moment when your systems, your promises, all of the, strategic acumen that people tout, your people are tested to the absolute limit. It's all put on display. Christmas is the time. Failure across these three fault lines, the post-purchase blackout, the omnichannel illusion, and the collapse of the human firewall, will cost you more in the long term in trust than you could ever gain in short-term sales. Your strategy must anticipate these failure points now and not just react to them in January, because January is when those returns, those exchanges, those whoops, bought it in the wrong size, whoops, didn't really need that, get returned. That's what I was talking about earlier. It can start to bring undone your profits come January. So here's my final thought for you to take to the comments. Where does your business strategy fail under pressure? Is it one of these three, or is it something else? Let me know your answer in the comments, or find us and send a message on Wild Culture's social channels. So thanks for listening to Wild Culture today. Until next time. Thanks for listening in to Wild Culture. If you found value in our conversation today, please make sure you follow or subscribe to the show wherever you listen. Taking a moment to leave us a quick rating or review is the best way you can help other curious strategists and passionate spenders find us as well. Bye for now.